Hey everyone, welcome to Firewall Analyzer free training part 1. So a quick introduction about myself. Hey everyone, I'm Vikram, subject matter expert in enterprise security management, and I have over 4 years of experience in product marketing, and I'll be your presenter for today. All right, so let us straight away jump into the agenda for today's session. So first, we'll be looking at a typical network infrastructure and why firewalls play a critical role in network security. Second, we'll look at a more important question in hand, that is, why should a security admin use Firewall Analyzer? And from here on, we'll be looking at how to fetch the rules and configurations from your firewall device to Firewall Analyzer. And further, after fetching the rules, we'll have a look at the different capabilities of Firewall Analyzer, which includes the rule management, configuration monitoring, and finally, we'll wind up with looking at the compliance and audit reports of Firewall Analyzer. Right. So as discussed before, you have on the screen a typical network infrastructure, and it consists of a router, a WAN, LAN, and also multiple endpoint devices which connects to these WAN and LAN. And also you have various on-premise servers, including Active Directory server, etc., which manages the permissions to your various network resources. And last but not the least, you have gatekeeper to all of these devices, which is your firewall device. So hackers generally can get on, hack and make their way into any of these devices. And ManageEngine products in general have the capability to monitor and report on all of these network devices. However, today we'll be specifically looking at firewalls and the product Firewall Analyzer. So why firewall devices in specific? Because firewalls make the heart of any network security enterprise. All right, so once a hacker gets into this heart, he or she will have unlimited access to your entire network infrastructure. Right, so now let us look at a more pertinent question in hand. That is, what are the major reasons for a firewall device to be at risk, and also why Firewall Analyzer? So Gartner predicts that around 99% of the exploited vulnerabilities will continue to be the one known by security and IT professionals for at least 1 year. So firewall misconfigurations, and specifically the known misconfigurations, are the issue. This makes it critical to identify and fix your firewall misconfigurations. And second, with hackers working around the clock to breach networks, it's essential that your firewall rules are spot on. So outdated firewall rules can be easily exploited by the hackers to get into your network. So this makes firewall rules optimization and auditing a priority, and it should be carried out at regular intervals. Third, network security admins are always in a constant tug of war with the hackers. And to win this war, network admins constantly install new security devices. However, on the other hand, hackers are always inventing new ways to get around these systems. So merely installing new security devices is of no use, and the solution to this would be to not stop with merely monitoring, but also in implementing a monitoring combined with a quick remediation solution, which will help to win this tug of war. And finally, regulatory mandates. They not only ensure regulatory compliance, but will also help you in covering common security loopholes. Using Firewall Analyzer, a policy management and configuration reporting software that helps in managing and optimizing your firewall rules using its rule management section. And it helps in identifying who made what changes, when and where. Not only this, it also helps in taking a configuration backup in case of network disaster using its config monitoring and backup module. And it also helps you to keep track of security and traffic logs using its log analysis features. And then you have alarm management, which helps you to notify attacks and anomalies as and when they happen. And finally, you have the complaints management features, which helps you to identify firewall misconfigurations. All right, so now that you got a brief on the capabilities of Firewall Analyzer, let us jump straight in on how to fetch the rules and configurations from your firewall device to Firewall Analyzer. Step 1 is to configure your firewall device to generate syslogs at UDP port 1514, which would act as the default listener port for Firewall Analyzer. So once you do this, you can perform log analysis and alarm management using Firewall Analyzer. Right. So step 2 would be, once you receive the syslogs from your firewall device and forward that to Firewall Analyzer, credential profile can be set for the specific firewall device. So once you do this, you get access to the inventory reports, that is the specific report for each of the firewall device that is added to Firewall Analyzer. So step 1 and 2 will be covered in detail in the next session, which is scheduled to happen on 7th of March, which is 1 week from now. And we also have other exciting features that we'll be covering in that session. In today's session, which is step 3, once you set the credentials, you should now fetch the firewall rules and configurations from your firewall device and add the device to the device rule. So once you get this, you get access to the rule management reports, config monitoring reports, and finally complaints management report. So this is what we're going to discuss in today's session. So you can fetch the firewall rules and configurations by 2 methods. That is, number 1, you can fetch the rules and configuration from your firewalls using the CLI or API protocol. And the second way is to add the device in the device rules by directly uploading the rules and configurations from your firewall device. So the first method will be discussed in this slide, and the next method will be discussed in the following slides. So currently API or CLI fetching is available for select firewall vendors, and we'll be sharing you a list of all the firewall vendors that support this feature towards the end of the session. And in case you want to check it out, it's available on our website. All right. So on the screen over here, you can see a sample screenshot of how to add the device info. On the left is the CLI of a firewall device, and here we have taken the case of Cisco Firewall. And on the right is the Firewall Analyzer's product UI. So as you can see in the UI, you need to enter you have to select device, choose the fetch through option, enter all the other information such as a web server URL, username, and password, and click validate. So let me take you to the product to show this to you in working. So for this, you go to settings and you go to firewall server and you click on credentials. And over here under the device rule option, you click on add. All right, so here you choose your device from this drop-down box and you choose the fetch through option. It can either be CLI or API or file option. And once you have selected that, and you have to enter the rest of the information that is required over here. And once you're done with that, you hit validate and Firewall Analyzer will process that request. And if it's a success, you can see that over here and it will be listed here automatically. Right, so that's how you add a CLI or an API based firewall device to the device rule. Right, moving on to the second method. So the second way to add a device in the device rule is to directly upload the rules and configurations to Firewall Analyzer. So to do this, first you will have to export the configuration file and the rule file from the firewall device, and then you need to create the rule file manually. So this is nothing but a text file where each rule is listed in a single line in the respective order, and each rule needs to be separated by a comma. So in case you have queries on this, we have detailed help guides explaining this process completely, and you can check that out on Google. All right. So once you have these 2 files, or even either of the file, that is either your rule file or your configuration file, you can upload them to Firewall Analyzer and add the device to device rule. So again, taking you back to the product, over here you simply have to in the same window select add, and over here you choose the file option, which will allow you to import your rule or your configuration file. So let me use the online setup to check if I can show you that feature. All right. So let me go to add. All right. So again, for this demonstration, I've used the demo.fwanalyzer.com. So in case you want to take a look at our online demo, which is always running, you want to check out any of the features, you can always just type this out in your Google's browser's search section, and you will directly be routed to this online demo, and you can check out all of our features. And in case you find any feature that interests you or you want to know more, we have a team of expert panelists who are waiting to answer all your questions. And to do that, you simply have to seek out the Q&A box at the top left corner and enter all your questions, and we'll have our panelists answer them right away. So moving back to the deck. Right, so we have one more method of device addition. That is, this lets you add your firewall device itself to Firewall Analyzer. And this method, what we have done is we have removed the usual syslogs, which is required to add devices. So then how do we add the devices? We simply require your IP address and the device name. So you choose the vendor name and you enter the IP address and device name and click on add, and your device gets automatically added. So currently we support this feature for select number of vendors. And again, I'll be sharing this list with you post the session, and you can have a look at it right away. So let me take you to the product to show that to you in working. So to add a device without the help of syslogs, simply go to settings, go to discovery and click add device. And over here you have the add device manually option, that is without syslogs. Excuse me. So to do this, you simply have to enter your device type. You can choose between firewall or router. Select the vendor name and enter the IP address and device name that I've explained before, and your device gets automatically added to Firewall Analyzer. However, if you want to make use of the tool's rule management and compliance report, you'll have to check this box and enter the credentials of your firewall alone. Again, we don't need the syslogs over here. So once you're done with that, you proceed, validate this, and you can see that this particular device will have the rule management and compliance report generated for it automatically. All right, so moving on. Right. So once you fetch the firewall rules and configuration from the firewall device, you get access to 3 reports. That is the rule management report, config management report, and finally compliance and security audit reports. So I'll be explaining this to you using use cases. Right. So more than use cases, we will be going through a scenario where we'll put an imaginary security admin who will be experiencing a couple of network security pitfalls, and let's see how he can overcome that by using Firewall Analyzer. Right. So the situation is as below. Let's assume that we have a new security admin, Jim, who is working for a company, and there have been a lot of network security issues that is reported in that company. And as a preliminary task, the company has asked Jim to do the following. That is, they want him to optimize his firewall's policies or rules, and they want him to monitor the changes that are made to the firewall's configuration, and also to schedule periodic configuration backups. And finally, they want him to submit a detailed compliance and security audit report. So let's see what are the challenges that Jim faces in achieving each of the use cases. So let's move on to use case 1. Right, so the first task in hand for Jim is to optimize the firewall policies. So to do this, Jim has to face the following challenges. That is, first, Jim is new to the company, which means he does not have visibility into the existing rule set. Secondly, the company is pretty old, meaning there are at least 1,000 rules for him to review. And also he has to review each rule manually because of the lack of visibility. And this will take an enormous amount of time. And again, since it's a very old company, the rules have not been reviewed right from day one. And because of this, there are a lot of duplicate and unused rules. And also, the fact that more than one security admin has written these rules will only complicate the process, which makes the rules highly unoptimized and a very big headache for Jim to fix this. So not only this, as I mentioned earlier, the company has more than 1,000 rules, and any new rule that Jim plans to add has a chance of affecting the existing rule set in a negative manner. And last but not the least, to add on to the complexity, the company does not have just one firewall, but they have around 5 firewalls. And every time Jim needs to write a new rule, he has to analyze the impact of making this particular change, and what is the change, what is the impact that this particular change will have on the existing rule set. So these are the challenges faced by Jim to overcome the first requirement that the company has posted. So again, doing all of these on a manual basis will take an enormous amount of time and efforts, which has a higher chance of introducing human error. So let's see how Jim, by using Firewall Analyzer, overcomes these challenges. So let us look at the rule management feature of Firewall Analyzer, which again will help Jim to address all of the challenges that are facing him in his particular task. Right. So the first feature under rule management that we are going to look at is the policy overview. So the policy overview report gives you the visibility to all the rules that have been written on the firewall. And again, you can filter these rules according to the allowed or denied rules, inbound or outbound rules, inactive rules, logging disabled rules, and also any-to-any or overly permissive rules. And again, instead of simply viewing them, you can also download them and analyze the list of rules. So with this feature, Jim can get clear visibility into the existing rule set that is present on all of his firewalls. So let me take you to the product to show this to you in working. Right, so to access this feature, simply go to rule management, and over here you click on overview. And right, so let me get the data for the particular firewall called the FGT, the FortiGate firewall that I have added for this purpose. Right, so once you come to the screen, you can choose the firewall device for whose policies you need to view. And here you can see that all the rules that are present in the firewall has been listed, and not only that, they have been classified according to the different statistic segments. Right. So in case Jim wants to get more visibility, he can simply click on total rules and understand how each of the rules that are configured in the firewall device has been classified. And again, you can see all the classifications spread there. individual metrics. Right. So with this, Jim can get a clear visibility into all of the existing rule sets. And in case he wants to download this in the offline format, he'll simply have to choose the particular format. Does he want it in CSV, Excel, or PDF? Or if he wants that to be sent to him in an email, simply click the email option and choose PDF, CSV, or Excel is the format, enter the email address, enter the message, and click send, and automatically the email gets sent along with the report that you have just chosen. All right. So moving on, the next feature of rule management that we are going to look at is called policy optimization. And now that Jim has solved the visibility issue, let us look at how the policy optimization feature will help him to address his challenges. So as mentioned before, the rules have been written by multiple security admin, and they have not been reviewed for a very long period of time. So because of this, there are a lot of anomalous rules and also overly permissive rules which affect the performance of the firewall. With Firewall Analyzer, you can rectify the anomalies that are present in your firewall policies, reduce the overly permissive rules, and also fine-tune your existing rule set. So let us quickly jump to the policy optimization report in the product UI and see how this helps. So for this, under rule management, you go to optimization. All right, so again, these are device specific. So here you can choose any of your other devices and get data for that. All right, so in case you want to see more data for this, we have our online demo. Choose the very same option and let me choose a different firewall. Let's go with Cisco. All right, while that is loading. Okay, right. So the next thing that we have to do is to choose the time frame for which we want this data to be populated. It should be somewhere over here. Let me check back over here. All right, so when you do this, you get something like this. So we only have one anomaly issue with our FortiGate device that we have just configured. So you can see that any anomaly that is present in this particular device will be listed out over here, and they'll be classified and segmented for your easy understanding. And as you can see, we also have additional features like the rule suggestion, policy fine-tuning, object usage, and duplicate objects, which I'll be running you through during the course of this session. So moving back to the deck. Right. So Firewall Analyzer identifies the following rule anomalies, that is shadow, redundancy, generalization, correlation, and grouping. In this slide, we have given detailed examples of all the anomalies that are detected by Firewall Analyzer, and we'll share this presentation with you once this training is over, so that you can go through the list of anomalies and understand the ones that are classified and segregated and shared in the anomalies window of Firewall Analyzer. So to explain or expand on anomalies, let me take you back to the product. And all right, so let's check if the demo has loaded. Right, seem to have run into an issue. Give me a minute. Right, I guess it's some issue with my internet. All right, yeah. So here you can see that we have a beautiful graph pie chart over here. And as you can see, the different anomalies that are present in the particular FortiGate firewall device has been segmented over here. And for the same device, you can see there are a couple of redundancy rules. If you want to know more, simply click on it and you have an expansion on that. Simply click on the particular rule to understand why this particular rule is classified as redundant. Likewise, we have a couple of generalization, correlation, shadow, and other anomalies. You can view all of that over here using the same method. Right. So the second feature that we're going to look at is rule suggestion. And all right. So to create a new rule suggestion, you simply have to choose your firewall device from out over here and click on generate. And in case you want to have this data for any specific time period, you can choose that over here. All right. So to view the rule suggestion report, it will look something like this. So here you get a list of all the overly permissive rules which are connected to overly permissive source or destination. So with this, you can clearly identify what are the rules that are overly permissive, and you can take sufficient action to ensure that overly permissive rules do not end up causing you a big security issue. All right, so next we're gonna look at another aspect of the anomaly. So for that, I'm taking you back. right? So for that, we're gonna next we're gonna look at the policy fine tuning. So again, you can get this data for specific rules and for specific time period. So let me choose to have this data for the past 30 days. And let me choose rule number 11. And to fine tune this rule, I'm going to hit fine tune. And right, so if there are any suggestions of fine tuning the performance of this particular rule, I'll have that generated out over here. And with this, you can understand how this particular rule is affecting the other rules, and also how you can fine tune it. Right. So following that, we're going to look at object usage. So for that, we have follow alto. Check on that. Let me check that in FortiGate itself. Right. So I'm going to choose this. Right. So duplicate objects. We have object usage and we have duplicate objects. Right. So duplicate object report helps you to find your network or service objects having the same set of IP addresses, services, but different object name. And duplicate objects slow down the firewall device. And with this report, you can better identify and fix this. So to get more data, yeah, you get something like this. Right. So next we're going to look at the object usage, and FortiGate device. I'm going to choose the first report that I've generated ahead of schedule. Right. So this tab will give you the overview of the network and service objects that have been used by your firewalls based on the syslogs received for a period of time. So if you scroll down, you can see we have detailed reports, detailed object-based reports, the least used services, most used services, all of that is available. Right, so moving on. So the next we're going to look at the rule reorder report, which is yet another feature of rule management. And with multiple security admins writing these rules, it is highly possible that these rules are not optimally arranged. And for example, let's say that you have a new rule which was written recently and it takes the position number of 500. But this is a rule that has a lot of hits. In other words, it's a frequently used rule. So every time this rule needs to be accessed, Firewall Analyzer will have to go through all the other 499 rules that are present ahead of it. So what it does is it takes a hit on the firewall's processing speed. Firewall Analyzer provides a rule reorder report which helps you to solve this problem. So taking you back to the product to show this to you in action. Again, under rule management, you go to reorder. So once again, you get this data for specific firewalls. And in my case, I've chosen the FortiGate firewall. And I've set this to a period of 30 days, right? So here you can see that the suggested rule changes, that is this particular rule number 24 from its current position of 32. If it's moved to position number 1, it will have a 80% improvement in its performance. And you can also see the hit count of this particular rule. So with this, you can understand how better you can reorder your existing rule set to get the most out of it. And also in the completed changes section, you can view all of the changes that you have made to your existing rules, how you have reordered them. And in case you wish to have this downloaded in a different format, that is available with a click of a button. So moving on with the deck. Right. So next we're going to look at another feature of rule management, which would be the rule cleanup report. And as I explained, Jim's company is a very old company, and there is a possibility that there are a lot of rules which are not used, and also it is out of place. So these very same unused rules can be used by a skilled hacker to breach into the network. With Firewall Analyzer's rule cleanup report, you get a detailed list of all the unused rules, unused objects, unused interfaces, and also unused objects, unassigned objects. It is recommended that you first deactivate these rules for a short period of time. And once you find that there is no impact in the network, you can safely remove these rules from your existing rules. So let me take you to the product to show this to you in working. So again, for this, you go to cleanup and you choose the, give me a second. Right. So I'm going to go to cleanup. Right, so again, this is for the same firewall FortiGate device that I have chosen previously. And over here, you can see a list of all the unused rules that are displayed out over here. And these are, if there are any rules that are outdated and as a result of not being used, hackers will pounce on them and get into the network. So it's highly important that you identify these unused rules and take action accordingly. And then you have unused objects. So here you can clearly understand what are the rules that are unused, what are the objects that are unused. And in case you have unassigned interfaces that are present for your perusal as well. Likewise, you also have unassigned objects. So with this, you can understand what are the rules that are currently configured but are not in use in your existing rule set, and you can remove them if you find that they are useless and could be a security hindrance. Okay. So next we're going to look at the rule impact analysis, which is a very important feature of rule management. So the question here is, why do we need rule impact analysis? Before you add any rule, it is very difficult to know the impact it will have on your entire existing rule set. Firewall rules are not typically independent from one another, and in fact, most rules have a direct impact on a set of another rules. So given this case, you must take the utmost caution before adding a new rule to your firewall's rule sets. The simplest error can trigger a massive security loophole that either allows malicious traffic to sneak in or block legitimate traffic that can disrupt your normal business. With Firewall Analyzer's rule impact analysis, you can easily determine if the proposed new rule is going to impact the existing rule set in a negative manner. Let us look at how Firewall Analyzer's rule impact analysis can be configured, and I'll also be showing you a sample impact analysis report. So for this, I'm taking you back to the product, and to access the impact report, simply click on impact under rule management. All right. So to add a new impact report, all you have to do is click on impact analysis. Second. So once you do that, you have to enter the rule name, choose the position, source, destination, all the other information that is on the screen. And in case you have any blacklisted IPs, you can list that out over here. In case the list is long, you can simply make that into a file and browse and select it. And here you can choose the object repetitive list. So once you've selected all the prerequisites, you hit on generate report and you will get something like this. Right, so let me give you an example of a live impact report. Right, so here you can see that this report is split into several sections, and the first section denotes the anomaly details. So here you can see the report. We have rule number 11 has a redundancy error, and we have another rule that has redundancy anomaly, and these two have the anomaly details that are captured under Firewall Analyzer. And next we have rule reorder recommendation. So in case if there are any rule that can be repositioned from its existing place for a performance improvement chance, that will be mentioned over here. And then here we have overly permissive rules. So if any rule is overly permissive, that will be analyzed and listed over here. And then you have security threat details. So here you get a list of the service or application level security threats. And next you get interface level security threats. And following that, you also get a list of blacklisted IP addresses in case you have mistakenly used any of the blacklisted IPs, which you have already fed to the system. That will be listed over here. And then you have a risky port info, which helps you to get a risk assessment for your service or application level ports and interface level ports. So finally, you also get a list of object repetitiveness with respect to both service object and source object, in addition to the other rules. Right. So with this feature, even before you write any rule, you can check the impact of the new rule on your existing rule set. So with this, Jim can save a lot of headache by avoiding creating rules that can affect the other rules in his existing rule set. Right, so next we have the rule administration feature. So this is one feature that has revolutionized Firewall Analyzer from being simply a monitoring tool to a management tool. So using this feature, we have the capability to add, modify, and delete network service objects or firewall rules on your firewall device itself. So previously, we only used to give you the report for this, but now we allow you to perform an admin level function of making these changes by yourself. So in addition to that, you can also analyze the implications of the change and also push these changes directly to your firewall device itself. So let me take you back to the product to show that to you in working. So again, to access this feature, you'll have to go on to administration. Give me a second, I've reloaded this page. All right, so under rule management, you go to administration. Right, so out over here, again, you have to choose the firewall device for which you want to have the data populated. And here you can predominantly see that we have 3 tabs where the changes we intend to make are recorded. That is nothing but the network objects, service objects, and security rules. So under these 3 tabs, you have 2 options, that is local objects and firewall objects. So local objects represents the changes that you want to make in a specific firewall device. and this lets you make changes which includes adding, deleting, or modifying network objects, service objects, or security rules. So let me show you an example. Let me edit an object rule from over here. Right, so let me choose this particular edit. Let me simply add an address description for the sake of demonstration. Hit add. So as you can see, when I click on add, this change doesn't get directly impacted, directly pushed to your firewall. We have multiple layers of security that prevents you or any unauthorized people from making the changes with a click of a button. So again, when you make the change in the firewall objects, you can see that this change directly gets pushed to your local object section. Right. So once you have populated that out over here, the next step you have to do is push it to the review and push tab. So here you go over there and you click on all, and you can see here, you can see the change that we have recently initiated. So you click on that and then you click push. All right, so once over here, again, we have one more security measure which requires you to enter your login name and password. So obviously this is for a security measure. So once you enter that, it will verify, and once the validation is a success, the next thing you have to do is hit the push button. All right, so once you have pushed it, from the review and push tab, it goes directly to the commit section. So this is an added layer of review where we'll have to commit, and once we need to validate the push after you commit, that is when it gets pushed to your particular firewall. Right, so once we commit, the same is recorded in the commit audit for future reference, and in case there are any changes or edits that you have to make to the commit window, you can directly click on revert and you can make the changes on your particular rule edit that you have made. And in case you want to view the changes between the previous version of this particular rule and the new version, that the changes that you've introduced, simply click on the view diff, and here you can see the change that you have initiated over here. So once you're done with that, this rule gets pushed to your firewall device. But before that, we have one more thing to discuss. That would be the rule approval. So rule approval is nothing but a super admin level feature that allows the super admin to decide whether or not a particular change that has been requested to be made on your firewall gets approved. So here you can approve or deny any of the requests that any of the firewall admins have made on their behalf. And here this dashboard gives you an overview on the pending requests, any of the approved requests in case you have approved any, or you can even view all of the rejected requests. So this dashboard will give you all of those information, and that is present in different visual formats. And in case you want to get this downloaded in different format, that is available as well. All right. So next, we're going to look at a feature of Firewall Analyzer that's called rule comparison. So with this feature, Jim can easily pinpoint the changes that are made to the rule configuration, and he can make this, he can arrive at this conclusion by comparing the configuration files between any two running version, or between any two offline versions, or even between configuration that is currently running and configuration that is present in the offline version. So with this, Jim can clearly identify all the changes that are made to the firewall rules across various configuration versions. So this feature lets you compare two configuration files, and I think it'll be better if I show that to you in the product so that it's easier to understand. Right. So over here under the rule management section, you go to the comparison window, and over here we have recently revamped this feature. That is, we have revamped the dashboard. So it gives you, in addition to comparing configuration files, also information about the rule changes that you have made. So any recent rule changes, let's say in the past 30 days, that has been made on this particular firewall device, let's say FortiGate firewall device, that will be listed out over here. So as you can see, there have been 98 rule changes made, out of which 3 were new additions, 91 were modifications to existing rules, and finally 4 were deletions. So if you scroll down, you can see multiple graphs giving you this information for easier understanding. And here you have a detailed rule change report that lets you view all of the changes that have been made to this particular firewall's rules. You can view all of that over here. So coming back to what we discussed in the presentation, that is the configuration file comparisons. You go to config policies, compare policies option over here, and here you have the option to compare between your configuration files, any two offline files, or you can run a configuration between your offline file and one that is currently live, or between any two live configuration versions. So for the sake of demonstration, I'm going to run a comparison between offline file and a current running file. Right, so I have a file prepared for this purpose. Right, I'm gonna hit compare. All right, so here you can see the comparison between the offline file and the version of the configuration that's currently running. And as you can see here, all of the changes are denoted by color. The orange denotes the modifications made, red denotes the deletions made, and finally green denotes the new additions that have been made. And in case you want to download this, this is available in multiple formats, or you can even get that sent to your email by choosing the send email option. All right. So that's it. Right. So moving on, next feature that we're going to look at is the rule expiry notification feature. And as a rule management best practice, most security administrators set expiration dates for their firewall rules. So after expiring, firewall rules need to be rectified and reactivated again. However, as most organizations have hundreds of rules and multiple security admins working on these rules, it becomes nearly impossible to review the expired rules and rectify them manually. Firewall Analyzer's expiry notification feature can help the security admins to track the status of your firewall rules and get notified on which rules have expired. So this helps you to get visibility on all the firewall rules for which any kind of schedule has been set. It enumerates all the active firewall rules for which a schedule has been set, and security admins can also track the specific active rules and get notified at a moment an active rule expires. You also have upcoming rules, which catalogs all the rules that are scheduled to turn active in the near future. And then you have expired rules, which records all the rules that have expired. And finally, recurring rules, which lists all the reactivated and certified rules on a regular basis. So all of these given reports can be scheduled to be sent to your email or can be downloaded in a report format as per your requirement. So to show that to you in working, under rule management, you go to expiry notification. All right, so once again, this is device specific. So as you can see for my FortiGate device, I have a couple of scheduled rules. I have the active rules over here. These list the upcoming rules, and the rules that have expired are over here. And finally, any recurring rules will be listed in the last window. Right. So in addition to the expiry notification, there's one more feature that we have launched from our version 12.7. So in case you want to experience the risk analysis feature, I would recommend you to upgrade your setups to 12.7 and above. So this risk feature, it helps you to simplify and prioritize and manage all your existing rule sets. So it helps you to list the rules based on severity and in identifying any weak firewall policy misconfigurations and in limiting security incidents. So what this basically does is this is a live version of the impact report. So on impact report, you get to understand how a new rule will impact your existing rule set. However, this report, the risk analysis report, will analyze the existing rules that are present in your firewalls, and it will tell you in case there are any risky or a poorly structured rule that is currently running in your security setup. Right. So here you can see that this is divided into multiple sections, and over here in the summary, you can get an overall information about your firewall's risky rules. And over here under rules, right here, this page contains all the risky rules, rule data along with associated risk level count over here. And then we have the show by risk feature, right? So here you get displayed the risk sections that contain any risky rules. And in case you want to exclude any rule from being calculated for this risk analysis report, simply you can add those rules to the risky rules section from the show by rule option. You can add them to the risky rule, and here under the excluded rule, you can see that I've already added one rule. So this rule will not be taken into consideration every time an analysis for the existing rules is made. All right, so that concludes the use case 1. So now moving on to the second use case. Now that Jim has reviewed all the rules and made necessary changes in his firewall rules, let us look at the second case, the use case for Jim. So the second use case starts with monitoring the changes made to your firewall configuration. So let's say that one of the employees in Jim's team has left the company, and it is expected that he did some damage to the existing configuration before he has left. So previously the company had no idea what these changes were, and now that Jim is here with the help of Firewall Analyzer, they want him to analyze and track and record all the changes that are made to your firewall configurations, and also to download these changes in a report format. Right. So let us look at this in the product UI. But before that, the company also wants them to take a backup of the configuration files. So in case the company runs into a network security issue or a security disaster, they want to ensure the continuity in the business, so that they want to have a backup of the configurations. So let us look at how Firewall Analyzer's change management report and configuration backup section will help to resolve this issue. Right. So as mentioned before, changes made to the firewall configurations has gone unnoticed previously. But with Firewall Analyzer, if say the employee who has quit the company, who goes by the name James, makes a change to your firewall device, this is automatically recorded by Firewall Analyzer. So any change that has been made to the firewalls that have been added to Firewall Analyzer does not go unnoticed. Firewall Analyzer does not only track who made the changes, but also when it was done and what was changed. So let us look at how this change management report looks like in the product UI. So for that, I'm taking you back to the product, and for this, under compliance, you go to change management. Right, so this is yet another feature that we have revamped. So over here, you can see that we now have a newly added dashboard. So again, this dashboard will give you all the configuration changes that have been made in the last 24 hours. So let me set that to 30 days. Right, and also it lets you to view all the rule changes that have been made in this particular section for this specific firewall. So any change that is made will be listed over here, and here you can see it is color coded based on the different dates. And here you can see the configuration change that has been made on, the person who has made the change, and the IP address, the version number, the config change count, and other details of this particular configuration change. So in case you want to view this configuration change in detail, simply click on this button present over here, and here you get details on the changes that have been made. In addition to that, you can also compare by modifying the LHS and RHS of the configuration type and by selecting the specific configuration, so that you can understand multiple differences between any specific configuration change that has been happened. So again, in case you want to download this in the form of a report, you have the ready-made option to download that in PDF, or you can even send that as an email to you. And if you want to have this sent to you as an email on a scheduled basis, simply give your email over here, and you choose the format in which you want the report, and you select the frequency on which you want this report. And again, you choose this and you hit save, and this report automatically, the schedule automatically gets saved, and you will get that email sent to you automatically. And in case you want to trigger a notification, that is when a change is made, you want to be notified via the notification options, you can simply select that, and you can write an email or an SMS over here. And once you've configured the email and SMS server, your every time a change happens, you will be emailed to the email address that you have mentioned out over here. Right. So moving back to the deck. Right. So now that we looked at change management, the next thing we're going to look at is configuration backup. So with this feature, Jim can easily schedule automated config backups, and hence any erroneous modifications made to his current config version, either due to an attack or due to a network disaster, can be reverted with the help of the backup option. All right, so let me take you to the product to show this to you in working. So the config backup is available under compliance and under configuration backup. Right. So based on your requirement, configuration backups can be taken, and over here you can see that we have 3 config backup schedule that is running, and all the statuses are active. To create your own config backup, simply hit the add config backup schedule, give this report a name, choose the firewall device whose config you want to backup, and choose the schedule if you want this to be repetitively backed up, and if you want to do this only once, you can choose that option from here as well. And once this config has been backed up, in case you want to have that config sent to you in the form of an email, you can choose the option from over here. Enter the email and the subject and hit save, and you'll get a new config backup scheduled over here. And in case you want to run an audit of all the backups that you have performed, you can get all of the relevant details over here. And the config files are also available for download over here. Again, you can also compare them with any of the previous versions of your configurations by using the compare feature that is listed in the compare window. Right. And finally, if you want to actively compare any 2 configuration backups, you can choose that from this window, and you can choose the firewall device, the schedule type, and you can compare it by configurations or by rules. So once you have selected your preferences, you hit compare. You can get a detailed comparison summary of any two configurations by comparing by configuration or by rule. Right. So moving on to the third use case. So Jim's company need to be compliant with multiple security standards, but they are failing short with a lot of them. So this has affected them so much that they have started losing customers, and as their complaint, since their complaints is not up to date. So for this very purpose, Jim has been assigned a task to submit a detailed compliance report and a security audit report. So let us look at how Jim utilizes the compliance and security audit section of Firewall Analyzer to resolve this issue. Right. So the standards and complaints management feature of Firewall Analyzer provides out-of-the-box complaint standards for multiple compliances out of the box. So in addition to what is mentioned on the screen, we have added two more compliance requirements, which is again available on our online demo. Or in case you wish to know what they are, and if you wish to see how your network environment can be benefited by using these compliance features, you can let us know and we'll have a personalized demo scheduled out to you right away. And in case you have more questions on these features, you can always write to our panelist who is waiting to answer your questions in standby, and you can reach them via the chat section. Right. So let me show you how the compliance management section of Firewall Analyzer performs by taking you back to the product. Right. So to access this feature, simply go to compliance and choose the standards option. Right. So over here, you can choose the firewall for which you want to have these reports generated. So a point to note is, as long as you have adequate data for your particular firewall device, Firewall Analyzer will generate all of these reports to you by default without any charge out of the box. Right. So to view more information on any of the particular compliances, you simply have to click on view more. So let us assume that the company that Jim is working on is a financial company which is card based. So it is mandatory that they stay compliant with the compliances like PCI DSS. So this particular firewall has been only 50% compliant with this particular compliance standard. So if you want to understand more, simply scroll down and you can see that this report is split into three inputs from Firewall Analyzer, which would be the fail option, the pass option, and finally a manual verification section. So to stay compliant with PCI DSS, you'll need to pass all of these regulations mentioned over here. And Firewall Analyzer will list out all the sections that you have passed with a green tick, once you have failed with a red cross, and once where manual intervention is needed with a star option. Right. So to check out a section that you have failed, simply click on it and you'll be taken to that section, and it will tell you what this particular compliance regulation is all about and the details as a reason on why you have failed, and finally a recommendation on what you can do for a chance to get pass mark in this particular compliance section. So it's like that we have it for all of the multiple other compliances out of the box. All right, so moving back to the deck. Right, so the next feature we're going to look at is the security audit report. And Firewall Analyzer's security audit report helps you to identify the configuration loopholes in your firewalls. So it lists the events based on criticality, such as critical, high, medium, low, and info. And in addition to that, it also provides a detailed finding, what is the impact on the network, and also suggests solutions, and thus can help prevent security events. So taking you back to the product to view this section in detail, under compliance, you go to security audits. So here you can see that for this particular firewall Palo Alto, you scroll down, you can see that we have 0 critical issues, 2 high rated issues, and a couple of medium, low, and information related issues. So again, to understand how this particular report is working, you can simply go through how we have structured this report for easier understanding. And once again, this report is available on fwanalyzer.com, which is our online demo tool, which runs 24/7, and you can look it up in case you want to check out any of our features. Right, so back to the security audit report, and over here under the, let's look at a high rated issue. Scroll down, and here you can see the high issue is populated first, and here you have a general analysis on what this particular issue is all about. And over here you can see the affected rule, which is why we have been categorizing this as a high alert, and the result of this particular rule, what will be the repercussions of this particular issue, and also suggestions that you can implement to ensure that this particular issue gets negated. So all of that is present. Again, you can download this in multiple formats, or you can even have this sent out to you in the form of an email. Right. So to summarize, Firewall Analyzer is a policy and configuration management tool. It helps us to identify policy anomalies, unused rules and objects, and it lets you to perform in-depth impact analysis, and also helps you to push the policy changes directly to your firewall. And thus it helps a critical role in optimizing your firewall performance. In addition to that, you get out-of-the-box compliance reports for SANS, PCI DSS, NIST, ISO, GDPR, etc. And in addition to that, it helps you to monitor your configuration changes and also to schedule configuration backups. And finally, Firewall Analyzer supports all major firewall devices. All right, so listed here is the basic installation requirement. Firewall Analyzer can be installed on a Windows or a Linux system. All the syslogs received by the Firewall Analyzer by default is stored in the Postgres database. So if you need, you can also configure the syslogs to be stored in your MS SQL database. The disk space and RAM size mentioned here are the minimum requirement, and the same might vary depending on the number of devices being analyzed and the number of devices that are sending log information to Firewall Analyzer. So on the screen, you can see the prerequisite ports that need to be free and the respective protocols that would be used. So here we have the SSH SCP protocol on port 22, port 69, TFTP, and 23 is where we have the Telnet protocol running. And finally, we have 1514, which acts as the listener port and where you are required to forward all your syslogs for Firewall Analyzer to generate syslog-based reports. Right. So we have technology partnership with Checkpoint, Palo Alto, and WatchGuard, and we're only actively working towards expanding this section. And also we support more than 50 firewall vendors and over 200 devices that are currently supported. And again, this is also another list that we are actively expanding. So in case you are running a firewall device that is maybe not on this list, you can check out all the list. You can check out the vendors and the firewall devices that we support on our online web pages. And in case you're having difficulty in finding them, I'll be sharing that to you via email after this session has completed. Right. So Firewall Analyzer provides the rule management report for the given list of firewalls. So again, this is another feature list that is available on our website. So in case you are curious, you can have a look at this. And if you want me to send them to you over email, you can simply let me know by commenting in the chat panel, and I'll customize an email with all of these list of vendors that we support and send that to you immediately. All right. So next, in this slide, you have the basic information on how you can contact us. You can reach us out via email through fwanalyzer-support@manageengine.com, or in case you wish to talk to us, you can directly call us on the number that is given in the screen. And do not worry, I'll be sharing this presentation post the session so that you can have all of these on your email. So in addition to that, we have a forum where we have network admins discussing their issues, and we have our technicians answering them, and that is called Pitstop, and that is available at pitstop.manageengine.com. And this is common for all of the products of ManageEngine, and there under Firewall Analyzer section, you can see all the discussions of Firewall Analyzer happening. And finally, we have an exhaustive help documentation on our website. So in case you have any feature that you want to know more about, or you want to understand in depth about a particular feature, you can look us up at help/index.html under Firewall Analyzer. And if you can't go and search and you want to have your questions answered right away, again, our panelists are waiting to answer all of your questions. So simply type out your questions on the chat section and we'll have them answered to you right away. Right. So we are listed on Capterra, and in case you are an evaluator or an existing customer who's tuned in to look at the new features that are released in Firewall, so I would request you to share your feedback of the product on Capterra, and for your time and efforts, we'll be giving you a small remuneration of a $25 gift card. Right. So in addition to that, we have a couple of ebooks, and one of our best ebooks that has benefited a lot of admins across the globe is the Firewall Best Practices ebook. So this is available on our website free of charge, and you can download that from firewall/ebooks.html. So again, I'll be sending you the email that I'll be sending you post the session will contain a link to download all of these ebooks. So in case you want to download it right away, this is the email, this is the website where this ebook is currently uploaded. Right. So next we have a disclaimer on the security. So with respect to customer security and customer data security, we from ManageEngine can assure you that we take customer security and customer data as top priority, and we make sure that it stays protected at all costs. So if you want to know more about VPN management and also want to collect the following collaterals, please do not forget to join our next session, which is again scheduled on 7th March. Right. So thank you for joining us today. I hope this training was fruitful and I hope you learned a thing or two. So thank you everyone for joining, and I hope I can see you in the next session on 7th of March.